I'm Gene Ovanik with Hoofcare Today. I'm going to recap some of the information that we talked about in the earlier session on can all horses go barefooted. And I said yes they can, and I at one time thought that they could. As I mentioned before, 25 years ago there was a time when I thought that was the most important thing that horses could do. There was some implications to that, however, but there was also some benefits. And I think what I'm going to talk to you about is the benefits, because even the wild horses in their most pristine environment, there's a portion of those horses that have foot failure that causes their demise. And in part, that's a good part of the genetic pool. The thing that we learned from that experience 25 years ago is that we realized the importance of the barefoot model, meaning we learned that dividing the foot up equally from front to back was real important. We learned that the sole was the almighty grail in controlling the wear of the foot, which established a good medial-lateral balance. Now, the thing that came from that, from my perspective, was that I knew there was importance in that, and I needed to develop some sort of a product that would allow horses to maintain themselves being shod and performing as we're asking them to do. That was the benefit that took place from that. Now, I realize that there's still some strong benefits. I'm still a great barefoot fan. And I think that as for those people who are in this day and age looking to have their horses barefooted, there's basically three reasons why that happens. The first reason most people will take on the barefoot concept is that somebody has convinced them that shoes are bad, nails are bad, and there's a romantic aspect to that. I think there's nothing wrong with that, and if that's what you want to do, that's fine. Just realize that there's all of the things that you're doing that for are not necessarily true. Horseshoes are not particularly offensive to the foot unless the foot is not prepared correctly. The second reason that people take on a barefoot approach is that they've gotten awfully tired of having poor shoeing. The shoeing has been virtually painful to them in seeing their horses suffer through lameness, through stumbling, through all kinds of performance issues. That's another reason why people do that. That's a justifiable reason why going barefooted would make sense. The third reason is that people just do it for economic reasons. And in some households, that's a good approach too, if you can do it that way. The thing that's important about it is that if you decide you want to transition your horses from a badly shod foot that has some vertical displacement, a thin sole, a lot of those horses don't transition very well. And so you have certain goals that you need to meet. The foot needs to have that same barefoot foundation. The foot needs to be trimmed in a way that will divide it equally from front to back and from side to side against the sole plane. Those are guidelines that we know to be real important to transitioning. Now, simply pulling the shoes off of your horse in many cases didn't work because they had a less than a satisfactory foot to deal with. So they end up putting shoes back on. Problem is that you put shoes back on in the same manner that created the problems in the first place. That's why it becomes a frustrating situation for the horse and for the owner. So what I'm suggesting is that we have developed tools that will help a horse transition from that poorly designed foot, a poorly evolved foot, you might say, from just poor shoeing. It's one of the tools that we use is a clog. It's a plastic device, or it can be a wooden device. It's either or. It makes very little difference. The thing that's important is that it's applied to the foot, a properly trimmed foot, so that it divides the foot up equally from front to back. It's serving all of the needs of the foot from a biomechanical standpoint. The frog is in contact, the sole is engaged, the leverage is reduced, the pressures that are creating these hoof wall distortions are minimized or eliminated completely, which really jump-starts this foot into a new life. The most important part of this transition is that the horse needs to be active. And if you're trying to do this barefooted in some cases where the foot is not able to do it, the horse can't be active enough to help with recirculation, stimulation, and all the things that are important. Those of you who understand barefoot transitioning realize the importance of that. The thing that we have in our repertoire at the moment is that we have things like clogs. We have wooden plastic clogs. We have aluminum shoes with frog support pads. We have all kinds of leverage reduction tools that will allow horses to have that barefoot foundation properly applied to the foot, and then you can put that horse back to work immediately. You can do all of the things and more that you've ever been able to do with the horse, as long as these certain hoof preparation guidelines are met. I think that's good news for those who are really serious about wanting to get horses barefooted and do it right. The thing that we have found happens is that in about 3 to 4 shoeing periods, under these control environmental things, with the frogs engaged, the reduction in place, we find that the horse now has an opportunity to build some sole thickness that he was obviously missing from just overall poor shoeing. Now, it doesn't happen with every horse, but there's a large percentage of the horses that regain some of that structural integrity so that they can then go barefooted. Now, you make a decision at the end of 3 and 4 shoeing periods whether you want to continue with the barefoot or shoeing. It makes no difference. You at least have an opportunity and have the fabric underneath of the horse to give them protection that they need to go ahead and do what you want them to do. The third thing that I want to talk about is those horses that have been involved in the barefoot transition that are still sore after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 year, 2 years. I've been in this business for 50 years, and I found that I've dedicated my life to the well-being of horses' feet and servicing their needs. And one of the things that is most discouraging to me is that I've actually held the bones of horses that have been poorly transitioned, meaning whatever their intentions were in getting these horses to a barefoot state, there's been a poor program developed to help in this transitioning process. And I think that simple guidelines need to be followed. Bless your heart for those of you who want to do the right thing. If your horse refuses to let you trim his feet, or when you go to trim his foot and he continually pulls his foot away, something is wrong. The horse is not comfortable, and it's coming from the previous experience. If you can't get on your horse and ride them or do the things that you want to do after you trim his feet, something is wrong. Now, granted, I agree there's a certain short period of time in transitioning, but if you continually keep taking away and not giving back to the horse during these times, then something is wrong with your program. And I think that as you look at where you're at, what your horses are having to go through, if they're suffering, if they're not going where you want them to go when you're riding them, something is wrong. There's solutions for all of these problems. We have a whole gamut of things that we can do to help you take the time to do the right thing. And I think everybody is wanting to do the right thing, and it's your responsibility to see that that happens.